All right. Lieutenant Colonel retired Anthony Aguilar joined the Army in 2000 and spent 25 years in service as an Army Special Forces officer. A Green Beret, he has deployed 12 times and fought in 4 wars to include Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Tajikistan, and the southern Philippines, and various other locations. He recently retired from the Army in 2025 and went to Gaza in May of 2025 as an independent contractor under the GHF to secure humanitarian aid in Gaza. He was in Gaza and Israel from May 19th until June 28th of 2025. Welcome, Colonel Anthony Aguilar. Such an honor to have you here with us today. I wanted to again thank you for taking the time to join us. I know you've had several very busy interviews that you've been, having, and thank you for so much for including us um, to have this honor to join us today. Um, can you walk us through how you were first contacted to be part of the mission in Gaza and what convinced you to accept it?
Well, UG Solutions, which is the subcontractor for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation for Security, and just to be clear, I did not work directly for GHF. I worked as a subcontractor under UG Solutions. They contacted me in May 13th. They called me looking for people that had recently retired or had recently left the service with a special operations background. So they offered me a job as a independent security contractor with them for this mission in Gaza for humanitarian aid. I didn't know anything about the company, and I really didn't understand much about what the mission was going to be. So I asked them for a day to think on it, and then I went and looked at just kind of did some research online and looking at that there was no humanitarian aid going in, and that we weren't sure worldwide when that would be allowed, what was going on, and if this mechanism, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which I did not know anything about at the time, that if this was going to be allowed in, that though it wasn't a method or a solution that I necessarily agree with, I'm in full support of the United Nations having this mission. I felt that I could be a part of at least doing something, that it wasn't perfect and it wasn't the way it should be done, but if it was in any attempt to get humanitarian aid into Gaza to feed a starving population. And for anybody out there that says that the population is not starving, that is absolutely false. Anyone that says that is irresponsible and should be condemned for saying that the population within Gaza is not starving. That is an absolute lie. So I felt that it was a noble cause and that I wanted to be a part of it. And so I accepted the contract, and I was in Gaza by the 19th of May.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for people to realize, yes, they're starving, but they're being starved by Israel.
Right.
This is a man-made starvation. And I think it's so important for people to understand that this is um, purposefully done by Israel. What did you see when you arrived in Gaza?
Well, to your point, when we arrived in Gaza, um, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. And the first time I drove into Gaza through Karim Shalom, which is the main access gate in the south along the Israel-Palestine border, going into Palestine, the we drove in through there, and when you first enter that, you can't really see to the enclave itself because there's warehouses and there's buildings, and you can't see. But when you come out of the Karim Shalom loading area onto the Philadelphia corridor, which is a road that borders Egypt that goes directly to the Mediterranean Sea, and as we came around there, it's kind of on an elevated hill, because the terrain then goes downward towards the sea, and that was the first time I saw what I saw in terms of what had happened in Gaza with my own eyes. Of course, you see pictures and you see sound bites, but seeing it with my own eyes and just looking at from that viewpoint, you can see all along Rafah Mawasi into the Mediterranean, up to Khan Yunis, and even far, far, far away north, you can see the outline. And it was just pure devastation. I'd never witnessed anything like that in my life. And to be honest, it took my breath away. It gave me pause in looking at that this is absolute annihilation. This is not a conflict or a war that is being executed with proportion law. This is annihilation. And regardless of where people sit on the side of politics or right or wrong, to label a population as the enemy, whether you say everybody's Hamas or whatever the motivation is for whether we're fighting a war, regardless of where it is, to identify an entire population as the enemy and characterize them as such and dehumanize them as such is inhumane. And it's not in keeping with American values. It's not in keeping with the values of our world values. It is not how things are done. War or not, the entire population of Gaza is not the enemy. Every Palestinian is not the enemy, whomever the enemy may be. And I saw it, and it just devastated me. Now, particularly when we first got to the sites, when we first got to the very first distribution site, 24th of May, is when we went to these sites to go there and look at the sites to get an idea of the size, the scope, where they were. Up until this point, no one from Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, no one from UG Solutions, no one from any within the contract had actually been to the sites yet. And we were responsible for this. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was going to be responsible for the delivery of humanitarian aid, and no one had even seen the sites yet. We were told that the IDF built the sites. The IDF chose, located, and built the sites. Before we went into Gaza on the 24th, we were given kind of a briefing from the IDF telling us this is where we're going to go. And they showed us the operational overlay for where their IDF units were in and around the sites. And that immediately gave me great concern because all 4 sites, 3 of them, remember, under the UN method, there were 400 sites in the Gaza enclave with 500 trucks a day going in. Every food, pamper, fuel, hygiene products, educational materials, everything you need to sustain a population. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is only bringing in dried food goods, no water, no prepared food, no educational materials, no hygiene products, no clothes, no medicine, nothing but a box of dried food that consists of lentils, rice, beans, and a bag of flour and a bottle of oil. That is it. All those things require water to cook, and we're not giving them any water at all. But what gave me pause was that these sites are built directly in the middle of operational combat zones. So even though Israel has declared the entire enclave of Gaza as a war zone, there are still within the war zone considerations you must make, that we are obligated to make for the safekeeping and the protection of civilians. And this is outlined in the Geneva Convention. Israel is a signatory to the Geneva Convention. The United States is a signatory to the Geneva Convention and the protocols of international humanitarian law. They aren't optional. They mandate that we protect civilians, that we do not put civilians at harm, that we do not have humanitarian aid distribution sites, water sites, hospitals, schools, refugee or indisplaced persons camps. They cannot be placed within areas of active combat. And these sites were deliberately built within the combat areas of active operational combat. So when we got to these sites and I saw where they were, looking at the kind of the array of the Israeli Defense Forces in the area, I was immediately, it set off alarm bells to me that putting these sites in the middle of operational area where there's active combat going on puts the civilian population at great risk, puts the IDF themselves at great risk. It puts the UG contractors at great risk. It was to me, looking at building those sites in active combat zones was a deliberate decision. And to do that means that there wasn't any intent to actually deliver humanitarian aid or provide humanitarian aid. The intent, from my perspective, looking at all of the sites being completely south, 23 to 25 kilometers south of the population in northern Khan Yunis or Beret or Gaza City that needed it, that these were intended for intentional displacement and to lure and trap civilians. And, whether we call them Gazans, Palestinians, civilians, they're human beings. Regardless of a title or a name, they are human beings. And that is not how democracies or the world or any ethical government or army treats civilians on the battlefield, no matter who your enemy is. So immediately I had grave concerns as to the intent, the purpose, and what we were doing, and if this was actually really humanitarian aid.
So you've served in many conflict zones. How is Gaza and what you saw in Gaza compared to other places like Iraq and Afghanistan, based on what you've just let everybody know and described?
So with all I've been, not only have I been deployed to quite a few places, I've been deployed to quite a few places during some pretty wide-ranging levels of warfare, low intensity to high intensity to full scale combat to security operations to counterinsurgency. What I witnessed in Gaza, into the sheer destruction and annihilation of the population and of the infrastructure, and the way that civilians, unarmed civilians, the civilian population, the way that they're being treated and the way that we're being dehumanized, the way that they are being dehumanized and the way they're being treated in a way that is just absolutely in violation of our values, of our world values, not just American values, world values. It's the worst that I've ever experienced in my entire military career. And I have seen some things.
Wow.
I have seen some things that have, I was in Iraq during the surge in sectarian violence when there were murders going on where various militia factions were lining up bodies in the streets, beheaded in the streets. And I saw that every day in Baghdad, in Sadr City, in Taji and Fallujah. What I've seen in terms of the devastation and the absolute destruction is the worst that I have seen in my entire military career.
And you're not the first person that has said that. We have doctors, like we've had Dr. Mark Palmer, Dr. Feroz Sidwa, who have said what they have seen. And they've served in other, as volunteers throughout the world. They said that we have never seen or experienced medically, right, emergency situations like what we have seen in Gaza. And you are saying it as well from a different perspective of serving in the military and being in these high conflict zones, and you're saying the same thing. And I think it's so important for people to realize they are fighting civilians. Their targets are civilians, and you've reiterated that several times. But I wanted to have some perspective from you on what the Palestinians had to go through in order to arrive at the aid sites, and what they were met with when they did arrive at those sites.
Again, as I mentioned before, under the UN process, there were 400 distribution sites, and those distribution sites were arrayed anywhere from the south within Rafah, Mawasi, Tal al-Sultan, all the way up to Gaza City and Jabalia. They were arrayed throughout the entire enclave, with 500 trucks going in a day servicing those points in various degrees of providing aid. Now there are only 4. One of them is now closed, so there are only 3. So out of the 3 sites that are now open and were when there were 4, all of them are south of the Netzarim corridor. The Netzarim corridor is central Gaza that bisects from the coast to the Israeli-Palestine border, that separates Gaza City, Jabalia in the north from the rest of Gaza. And it is completely shut off. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out. So these aid distribution sites that we built them in a place and in a way that the vulnerable population that needs it right now, the vulnerable population within Gaza, Gaza City, Jabalia, can't get it. They can't leave the north. So these sites that we established, they were so far south. Remember the one up in the north, in the central Netzarim corridor that was close to the population of northern Khan Yunis or Beret is now closed. So anybody that wants to get aid, I'm talking about life-saving food, to eat, a starving population that needs food. And I've looked at all the distances of this, whether if you're coming from Mawasi, if you're coming from southern Rafah, if you're coming from central or northern Khan Yunis, and you have to travel all the way to sites 1, 2, or 3, all the way down in the south. At a minimum, because you can't just walk straight there. You can't just walk out of your house, get into your car, and drive down there. You can't drive, you have to walk. So because of the forced corridors that you have to move west to the coastal road. It's the Rashid Road that runs along the coast. It's called the Coastal Corridor. That goes south along the coast to the Morag Corridor, which is the militarized corridor that the IDF access to the south. They get queued or they quay at a large traffic circle. So just kind of, I'm just going to kind of walk you through, like, if I'm a Palestinian, what that looks like for me. Let's say I live in Khan Yunis, where the majority of the population now, because most of Rafah, southern Rafah, central Rafah, western Rafah, has been displaced, killed, and razed to the ground. There is nothing left in Rafah. There isn't a thing alive, except for the exception of some very, very, very few people in slivers of areas that are dying of starvation. So if I'm in central Khan Yunis and I want to go to site number 1, I have to walk 2 to 3 kilometers to the west, then walk 5 kilometers south, then walk another 2 kilometers in to get to the road that goes to the site, and then another kilometer to the site. So 10 to 12 kilometers, depending on where in Khan Yunis you live, and that would be the closest. So on any given day, if I live in Khan Yunis, in Khan Yunis, and I want to go down to site number 1, round trip, I'm walking 24 kilometers. I'm burning more calories than they are giving me in the food that they are providing me by a long shot. And I'm not getting any water. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know that they need to realize is that if I live south of the Netzarim corridor and I went to site number 4, well, site number 4 is south of the Netzarim corridor. I live south of the Netzarim corridor, so I can go to 4 and come back. Site 4 is now closed. So all 3 sites, 1, 2, and 3 in the south, are south of the Morag corridor, which is a militarized corridor. So when I go down south to go to sites 1, 2, or 3, and I leave site 1, 2, or 3, and I have to travel back down the Morag corridor to the coastal road, I can't leave. I can't go back home. Because they once I cross the Morag corridor, I can't go back north.
Wow.
So I'm then displaced. I get sent to either Rafah camp, Mawasi camp, Nasser camp, or I'm just alone out in the world with nowhere to go. So when we talk about displacement, it is absolute deliberate displacement. But the other piece to it is that to make a civilian population have to go through great lengths to travel to get humanitarian aid is a war crime. And I'm not making this up as hyperbole or dramatic talk or platitude. These are war crimes. They are outlined in the Geneva Convention, Protocol 1. And the thing is, the United States and Israel are signatory to these protocols. These aren't optional. We are committing war crimes. We are violating international law. We are violating humanitarian law. So when I get to the Morag corridor at the intersection of the coastal road and the Morag corridor to get to sites 1, 2, or 3, let's say site number 1 is the site that's distributing today. All of the aid is taken to the site and it's just put in a big pile, just piled up in boxes, like the Hunger Games or some kind of like dystopian survival of the fittest Squid Game like thing, just piled up. And when the UG Solutions, the American contractors on the site, determine, okay, we're ready, they radio to the IDF. The IDF then release the population. They usually block the corridor with 2 Merkava tanks. When the tanks are removed, the entire population that's there queued, anywhere from 6 to 7, sometimes 9,000 people at one time, flood to the site in one massive flow. It's not controlled. It's not organized. There aren't lines. There aren't separating women and children from the vulnerable population from the rest of the population like we should be doing. It's one big rush, just charging to the site. So the people that get there first, the Palestinians that get there first, are the fastest and the strongest. So who comes towards the end? Women, children, the elderly, the disabled, the vulnerable population that we, that Israel and the IDF and the US being involved in this are obligated to protect at all costs. That's who gets there last and gets no aid. 25,000 boxes. So if we put 9 truckloads of humanitarian aid onto one site, that's 25,200 boxes. And if anybody wants to refute that, I welcome you to refute it because I've counted them. I've been on the site and I have counted them with my own eyes. So I know exactly how many there are. 25,200 boxes on site. Within 8 minutes, within 8 to 10 minutes, the entire population moves through and all of the aid is gone. Gone.
In
There's
10 minutes. Can we show this video real quick? Is this what it would look like real quick? Just a quick. It's just a 3-second video. So this is how, this is it. This is an example of what you're saying.
Video right there, that's not propaganda. That's not something that somebody put out that's trying to, that's not AI. That's not fake. I shot that video. I stood there and filmed that video. Me. I witnessed to it with my eyes, but also filmed it. That is real. That is exactly how it's done. And if anybody wants to say that that's humanitarian and that's how we should be providing life-saving food to a population, I beg to differ. That is not how it should be done. So, and that's how it's done all the time. That wasn't just one time. That was every time. So you have this survival of the fittest rushing to the site, people tearing through the food. I have witnessed people in some of the first days that we distributed that were starving to the point that as they got into a box and they ripped open rice, they were eating the rice out of the bag. They were eating the rice and drinking the oil out of the bottle to get some kind of calories into their body. So anybody that says that there's not starvation and that we're not on the verge or have stepped over the line of actual famine, shame on you for saying that, because that is irresponsible and that is a lie, and you should be condemned for saying that. So is there starvation going on in the enclave? Absolutely. And that's just in the south. So once they get to the site and there's this free-for-all, it's mayhem. It's chaotic of people just ripping through boxes. Some people get 10 boxes. Some people take 20 boxes. On the ground on their hands and knees, picking up noodles one by one and separating from the rocks and the dirt and putting them in their bags so they had something. That is dehumanizing. That is disrespectful. That is not how America engages in the world, where we allow human beings to crawl on the ground and pick up food crumbs to put into a bag and we say that that's delivering humanitarian aid. That's not humanitarian aid. That's evil. Once the IDF tell the contractors on the site, hey, we need to get them out of there. The Palestinians need to leave. They need to go back north. We have to push everybody out because we have to go back to conducting combat operations. The process that the UG Solutions contractors on the ground have inherited, because there are no rules of engagement, there are no standard operating procedures, there are no escalation of force measures. We have provided no guidance on how we are supposed to interact with the crowd, on how we're supposed to control a crowd of this magnitude. But to further that, and this is going to shock a lot of people, every UG Solutions contractor under GHF that's in Gaza armed with a rifle, a fully automatic rifle, a pistol, a shotgun, bullets, stun grenades, tear gas, we are there on a tourist visa. We are in Israel on a tourist visa. So just think about that for a minute. We're in Israel on a tourist visa, and we are given fully automatic rifles, ammunition, pistols, rifles, shotguns, machine guns to go in to deliver humanitarian aid as tourists. It's shameful.
And why is it a tourist visa?
So this operation, when it came down to where the GHF remember, because the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation just spurred up out of nowhere in March. This organization hasn't been around that long. They just appeared in March for the purpose of competing and getting this contract. They didn't exist before this. So how did they get a contract of this magnitude, having never existed before and having no past performance or any demonstration on American to look into that? How did they even get the contract? But they did. They didn't exist till March. So as the contract was coming together, build the contract, they needed people quickly. there's different options for an entry visa into Israel. There is a B2 entry visa, which is tourism, school, other academic purposes. There's a GATV, a general access visa that is extended a little bit longer, that is actually granted by the Ministry of Defense or Ministry of the Interior, excuse me. There's another B1 visa that can be for a specific subject matter expert that's there at the invite of the government. So what they did was the B2 visa, entry visa as a tourist, was the fastest and the cheapest way. $25, about 3 minutes online. I go onto the ELIR website. I punch in my information. I put a picture of my passport. I pay my $25, and in 3 minutes, I get an email that's got my visa. So that's why they did it, because it's so easy and there's no accountability. Had they done it under the B1 method going through the government, it would take longer. It would be more expensive. But then there would be accountability because the government of Israel would have to approve it. So nobody wants to touch this. Everybody wants to do this and then be like, nope, I don't want to have anything to do with this. So while we're there, back to how on site, when the IDF say, hey, it's time to get them out of here, let's get them out. The IDF solutions personnel then come online, think stormtroopers, move forward with spraying pepper spray and tear gas. For no reason.
On the civilians trying to get aid.
Yes. There's video of this. There's a video that came out a couple weeks ago of site number 2, where there's a group of Palestinians, men and women, that are putting items in their bag, and 2 UG Solutions personnel come on them with weapons drawn, spraying them with pepper spray. There's video and proof of this. I'm not making this up. So they spray them with pepper spray and tear gas. These tear gas, and they throw these stun grenades into the crowd, then rush to the exit in chaos and pandemonium. And then as they're pushed through this small, narrow exit, remember, 8,000 to 9,000 people now being pressed and pushed through this small, narrow exit. And there's video of that too, where you can see the crowding at the exits, where it's just stampeding and mayhem. So then the UG Solutions contractors then start throwing stun grenades into the crowd to get them to keep moving, which does nothing to help with the movement. It just creates chaos. Once they're off the site and the Palestinians are moving north towards the Marag corridor to go back to the coastal road, the UG Solutions personnel then stand there and fire warning shots at them, at their feet, over their heads, into the berms. And this is not, again, there's video of this. There is photos and there is video. Shooting at them. Then the IDF began shooting at them, at their feet, over their head. And every time I've brought this up and it's been brought up to both the IDF and to UG Solutions, they don't deny this claim. What they say is, oh yeah, we fire warning shots. First of all, there's no such thing as a warning shot. When you fire a bullet from a gun, you are firing a bullet from a gun. There is no such thing as a warning shot, and that's absolute baloney. Anybody that calls shooting it's baloney. It's subterfuge and it's a lie. There's no such thing as a warning shot. So when the bullets are flying, these warning shots, they say they're warning shots. They ricocheting near the crowd. They don't deny it. They say, well, we do shoot warning shots. Again, not a thing, but we don't shoot it at the crowd. We shoot it around them. We shoot over their head, we shoot into the berm, or we shoot towards the sea. Well, the fact of the matter is we should not be pulling the trigger or shooting any bullets at all. The only authority we have to shoot that gun is if we are under an imminent and direct threat to our lives. Self-defense, that's the only measure we have. So, at their feet or over you're already committing a war crime. Now, take that a step further. When you're shooting at a crowd from a distance with a machine gun isn't something that you look down the sight and it's precise. A machine gun shoots belt-fed ammunition at a rapid rate, and it's an area weapon, meaning bullets go everywhere. So if you're shooting at the crowd of people at their feet or over their head, you're not shooting at their feet or over their head. Some of the bullets are going into the crowd. Again, tons of video and proof of this, seeing Palestinians lying on the ground, taking cover as bullets are flying over their head. So that's a war crime. That is a violation of international law. And when you start to look at the data and you start to hear the surgeons from the Nasser hospital, which is about 3 to 5 kilometers north of sites 1, 2, and 3. And every day we do distribution at sites 1, 2, or 3, the Nasser Hospital gets an influx of gunshot wound patients or dead. That's not a coincidence. So when you have 8 to 9 thousand civilians, they're leaving the site, they're getting corralled or hurted by gunshots, by bullets, and at the end of the day, the Nasser Hospital receives numerous deaths. What else could it be? It wasn't Hamas, I can tell you that. There are no, like, in the entire time I was there, I distributed at every site. I distributed during every time window at every location, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I did them all. And I traveled all the routes, the Philadelphia corridor, the Burma corridor, the Netzarim corridor, traveled them all. And in the entire time I was there, not one time did I ever see quote unquote Hamas. I mean, what do they do? Wear a Hamas t-shirt with a name tag? Never did I see not one armed Palestinian. Never did I see a Palestinian with a weapon, a pistol, a rifle, nothing. Ever. Never did I ever experience any hostility at all from a Palestinian. On the sites, there was chaos, sure, because you have starving people ripping through boxes, but that's not a threat, and that's not a mean to shoot people. The reactions that I got, and I sent you some of those pictures, was happiness, gratitude, kissing my hand, kissing my face, Amir who kissed my face and said thank you, people hugging me, waving, wanting to, thank us. Never did I ever witness any hostility, any violence on behalf of the Palestinians against us. So why we're using then to control the crowd pepper spray, tear gas, stun grenades, rubber pellet bullets, and then shooting at them as they leave is not only is it absolutely a violation, it's a war crime and it's a violation of international law, it's just evil. It's just barbaric. Is a population. When you put food in a pile and release a starving population of 8 to 9 thousand to rush down towards the site, we are dehumanizing them. Having them tear through food and pick up food from the ground, we are dehumanizing them. And then when they leave the site to go away and we're shooting at them, it's the dehumanization of the population. And it's unethical. And it's also, again, a war crime. So that's how the life on going to a site is. You have to endure a 12 to 24 kilometer walk. You get no water when you get to the site. The only food you get are dried food items that you have to have water to cook, that you can't eat there. It's not readily edible. On site, you get hit with anything from pepper spray to tear gas to stun grenades. And then when you leave, you get shot at, either by UG Solutions or by the IDF. That's how the civilian population is being treated with this supposed humanitarian aid process. And it's evil, and it needs to stop.
Wow. And I hope every single person, I do see we have Zionists here that are listening. Listen, this is the truth exposed. This is what we have been saying, and there's no denying it anymore. Um, I have like so many questions, but I know we don't have much time. If you can just help, if you could just real quick, before I give a chance for our sister Huwaida and our brother Ken and a few others to say a few things. If you can tell us about the young boy Amir and his story and how that experience shaped your perspective and decision to come and speak out. And we have his picture here. Such a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Yeah, just a beautiful young man.
Oh.
He looks like my son. I mean, you look at that face and his eyes. And this was at site number 2 on the 28th of May. There was the large crowd had been there, but they had mostly displaced by that point because most of the aid was gone. And you see Amir, whose name is Abdullah, who we found out now. I'll cover how we found that out. He was with the crowd, and he was alone, completely alone. No adult with him, no parents, no other family members. He was alone. and he was just just walking around. He had no shoes. His pants were being held up with a piece of string. His clothes were tattered, dirty. No telling when the last time he ate was, much less the last time he bathed or had anybody clean him. A child. And he was alone. And he walked away from the crowd towards myself and another contractor. He walked towards us and he extended his hand. And at first, the contractor that was there with me that day, another person that I've served with before, who is compassionate and mature and calm, and we both saw this young boy, and we were concerned that maybe he was hurt because he was alone, or that he wanted more food, which we understood. We didn't have any to give him, but he had picked up half a bag of lentils that had been discarded. He had picked up some food from the ground that he had picked up, and he was holding in his arms, and he held out his hand. And so we had him come over, and we walked towards him, and he walked towards us, and he puts his hand out, and the contractor standing next to me puts his hand out, and Amir puts his hand out and holds his hand, and he kisses his hand. And then he looks to me, and I put my hand out, and he kisses my hand. And he was standing there next to us both, and I took from my right hand, and I put it on his left shoulder, and I held him, and I could feel the bones. So anybody that tells me these people aren't starving and dying, shame on you, because I've touched it, I've seen it, I've felt it, I've smelled it. If you don't understand the smell of a human being when they're dying of starvation, when their body begins to break down, I've smelled it. I've smelled it many a time in the world. You can't fake that. So anybody that says that's not happening, shame on you. So this little boy who is at the precipice of starvation, body is breaking down. You can see it. I put my hand on his shoulders and I look at him and I say, the world hasn't forgot. You aren't forgotten. You are loved. And the world's not going to turn their back on you. There's hope. And he didn't understand the words that I said, but I think he understood the sentiment, because we were making eye contact and I was looking at him, and he sets down his items. He has his little items in his hands and he bends over and he sets them down. And I took a knee. I kneeled to look at him. And he puts his hands on my face, and his hands were so frail, emaciated skeleton, his fingernails completely brittle, dried, and broken. That is a clear sign of malnutrition. Clear sign of malnutrition. Starving. When your body doesn't produce the keratin for your fingernails, and your fingernails are breaking apart, that is starvation. And he puts his hands on my face and he kisses me. And he looks at me and he says, thank you, in English. In English. He kisses me and he says, thank you. And I cried. I mean, I'm a 43-year-old man. I've been in the Army for 25 years and I've deployed all over the world. And I looked at him and I just couldn't help but think, like, what this boy has to endure alone. And he picked up his items and he went back with the group. And the rest of the UG contractors start spraying the pepper spray, the stun grenades, and it scares them, and they run and they move towards the exit. And as they're moving towards the exit, the IDF had already been using warning shots on the rest of the crowd that had already left. A lot of people had already left, and there was a large mass crowd leaving. So they were already using warning shots to shoot at the crowd that had already started leaving. So as this last crowd was leaving in panic, at site number 2, the exit is masked by, there's a berm there. And as this people are leaving, from the IDF position along the Murad corridor that is shooting into the crowd for warning shots, they can't see when people are coming from the site onto the Murad corridor because of that berm. So they're shooting at the last crowd is rushing out in panic and running towards the road. They run directly into the fire because the IDF are already shooting, and there's that berm there again. So as soon as they come out of this exposed berm, boom, they get shot, and there's Palestinians lying dead. Amir was amongst them. Now, people have said, well, that's a lie. You didn't see it. I did see it, because when I was on the ground at the site, when I heard the gunfire, I thought we were under attack. There was a lot of gunfire. A lot of machine gun fire. So I ran up onto the berm and I'm laying there looking, and I can see it. I witnessed it. But to further corroborate that, 2 days ago, an NGO in Palestine who saw the picture of Amir took it upon themselves to try to find his family. And they found his mother in northern Nasser, north of the Nasser hospital. She has been searching for him since the 28th of May, hasn't seen him since. That's the day I saw him last. Hasn't seen him since. Can't find his body. No one knows where he is. His father was killed in an Israeli airstrike. He went to the site that day to get food with his uncle, to bring food home, and he's never been seen again. So I saw him. I saw him with my own eyes. So if anybody out there is thinking that this is some dramatic ploy or some kind of made up scenario, you think that what? That me, Tony Aguilar, somehow corroborated and corresponded with a woman that I've never met in my entire life, that's somewhere in Gaza, that has been missing her child since the 28th of May, who's now looking for him from the pictures that we made. This is not made up propaganda. This is the truth. And people are dying, to include children like Amir.
Yeah, and actually we have his mother here with us, Anthony. We were able to get in touch with her. I know their connection is really, really bad, but she is here with us. If there's anything that you want to say to her, I can, get some translate it and then get her response. But this is the mother that you saw in the video that you mentioned to me, and I told you I would try my best to see if we can reach out to her, and we were able to. So, is there anything that you would like to say to her?
Amir was a beautiful and wonderful soul. He was a beautiful and wonderful child, and I I don't know what's happened to the bodies. I don't know what's happened, and you need to keep looking for him, and you need to keep the investigation going into finding him, his body, and showing the world what's happened, because this is people don't believe it, because they say, oh, well, if you don't have the body, then it didn't happen, or no, that didn't happen. You, as his mother, who has been missing him since the 28th of May, me, who saw him last and what I witnessed, the world needs to know this and see it. This is not made up. This is not propaganda. These are human beings. Your son, a young boy that I had a connection with, that died. Do not let this just go away and disappear. Keep remembering this young boy, this beautiful soul, and do not let this go, and do not let people get away with this.
And just real quick, before Elmo will translate, I want to, any points that you guys see will be going to Amir's mother, so to assist them. So this is a way that we can help in any way. And for everybody that is sending anything, this will go directly to her. Go ahead, Elmo, if you want to translate to her. Assalamu alaikum, أختنا أم وائل وأخونا أبو إسلام. أنتوا معانا سمعونا? The connection is okay. Go ahead, Elmo.
السلام عليكم. أخونا أنثوني أجلير اللي كان موجود، اللي شاف أمير، آخر واحد شاف أمير، بيحكي لك إنه يعني لازم تكوني عارفة. هو بيحكي لك إنه خليك ضلك صامدة، يعني لازم تحاولي إنه تضلي تحكي عن أمير مهما صار، لأنه ما ينفعش قصة إنه هو اختفى وموضوع إنه اللي صار إنه مش موجود. أمير كان موجود، وإنه هم عم بيحاولوا يهربوا من جريمة اللي عملوها ضد أمير. يعني هاد إشي، يعني كيف بنحكى هاي، إنه هاد إشي مستحيل إنه يعني ينسى أو يمر بسهولة أو يهون على الناس، إنه أصلا يفكروا إنه كطفل كان آخر شخص شايفه، وكان بينه وما بينه إنه شافه محبة، وإنه بنفس الوقت اختفى. ما فيش قصة إنه شي حدا اسمه يختفي، ما فيش اشي انه معناته انه بيوم وليله اختفى الولد، وانت من يوم 28 لسه قاعد عم بتدوري على ابنك، لليوم ابنك ما رجعش البيت. بيحكي لك انه يعني W everyone بيحكي لك انه احنا ان شاء الله حنضل نحاول نحكي وحنكمل انه نحاول نوصل الرسالة علشان الناس تعرف ان ابنك مش معناته انه اختفى انه حقه حيروح، وحقه مش هيروح.
Yes, thank you. أما تفضلي أختنا إذا حابة تحكي إشي لأخونا أنثوني.
أنا أحكي.
تفضل.
يعطيك العافية وكيف حالكم؟ أنا أم طفل عبد الرحيم محمد الجرابعة اللي لقبه الأمريكي بأنه الأمير. لحتى الآن أنا مش لاقية ولا دليل ولا إشي إنه يقول لي إن عبد الرحيم أو ميت أو حي، مش لاقية أي دليل. وين عبد الرحيم اختفى؟ وين جثة عبد الرحيم لو ميت؟ وين الجثة تبعت عبد الرحيم؟ وينها؟ اليوم إنا لفينا كل المستشفيات يوم بنروح، ما بخلي ولا مكان إلا أدور عليه. هل أنا بدي أعرف عبد الرحيم عايش أو ميت؟ آخر لحظة وين راح؟ هاي أنا بوصل رسالتي للعالم كلها. عبد الرحيم اللي لقبه أمير وين راح؟ لا نلاقي جثة ولا نلاقي عبد الرحيم أمير اللي لقبه أمير، مش لاقيها. حتى راح يحصل على كيلو طحين أو كيلو عدس أو أي شيء، أنا مش لاقياه. أنا بديش هذا الأكل كله، أنا بدي عبد الرحيم اللي لقبه أمير، وينه؟
Oh. So she's saying his actual name is Abdul Rahim and his nickname is Amir. She's saying that we have searched today miles and miles to look for him. Where is Amir? You know, where is Abdul Rahim? We are trying so hard to look for him. She's saying, I don't want food. I want to know where he is. That is my main concern right now. You know, I just want to make it very clear for everyone. I cannot imagine the situation that she is in. Like, if everybody could just put themselves in her shoes, which is impossible. But she's saying, I don't care about food right now. I just want to know where he is. I just want to find him. I just want to be able to see him. Um, I know, Anthony, you're really short on time, so I do just want to kind of, if it's okay, to give a chance for Huwaida and for Ken to say just a few words before you go as well, if possible. And just a reminder, anything that goes that you guys are sending to Abu Islam will be going to Abdurrahim Amir's mother. So this will help them. And you know, and thank you to everybody. Okay, Huwaida. Wow, I have so many questions and so much to say, and I know that we're really short on time, Anthony, and
Yeah, I have to, because I have to catch a flight. So I do
yeah,
have
I
to go
know.
in a very few minutes here, but
Very few minutes. Okay.
I'm open to doing this again, or if you want to send me any
Yeah.
questions that people had, I can type out the answers, or if you want to do another session in the future.
Yeah, we
This
can.
story is important, and what I have to say is that this is not political. This is not a matter of narrative and politics. This is about humanity, dignity, respect, human dignity, humans. Regardless of what anybody wants to say or call them or who they are human beings, and they deserve to be treated as such. The amirs deserve to be treated like human beings. Beautiful souls. We're going to say that they're Hamas. This is not right. Don't forget his name. Keep looking for him, because from what I witnessed and what I saw where he was and lying on the ground, that if his body is no longer there, we have to keep looking. We have to know. But for anybody out there that says that doesn't happen or that didn't happen, shame on you, because I was there and I saw it with my own eyes. It's on video. I saw it. Anybody that wants to sit behind a keyboard back in your comfortable living room or your office and type things up and say that I'm full of it, this and that, you weren't there. You have no idea. I was there.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Just real quick, like 5 minutes, if we can get Huwaida to get a word. Salam, sister Huwaida. Huwaida Arraf, as you know, was on the Handala flotilla when it was raided just a week ago or so by Israel. So go ahead, Huwaida. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Taz. Salam, sisters. Salam alaikum, everyone. I'm Abdul Rahim first. أول شيء الله يصبركم. الله يصبركم. الواحد مش عارف شو باقي شو يحكي. الله يقويكي. Colonel, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your testimony. Two quick things. One, I am an activist. I was on the Handala. I'm also, in my other life, I'm a human rights attorney. And one of the things that I filed a complaint against the United States in the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights, because the United States has virtually really insulated itself from any kind of accountability for international war crimes. And one of the sections of our complaint is about GHF. And so I would love if you're okay with that, if maybe Taz can put us in touch, because an affidavit from you for that complaint in the Inter-American Commission against the United States for participating in war crimes and crimes against humanity, I think would be powerful. That's number one. Number two, I think the story, the eyewitness testimony that you're giving is incredibly powerful, and people do need to know how evil, really, there's not much, I can't think of a different word, how evil what's happening is. But as much as even with our flotilla, our ships, we were focused on, getting in life-saving aid, baby formula, etc., we always stress that it actually is political, because Gaza is being starved, because Palestinians are being denied their human rights. And so it's not just that we have to get food, and we have to get food to people, of course, but that's because it's a deliberately created situation, a crisis where people are denied freedom and then the dignity that comes with being able to be free, because Palestinians can feed themselves, but they're just not being allowed to. And now we're seeing a genocide. So we're going to sail again to keep breaking the siege. And I know you're given the humanitarian aspect from eyewitness testimony, but if we all just keep in mind that we have to break the siege, we have to continue insisting on Palestinian freedom. Palestine is not a charity case, but your witness is so important, and I thank you for the courage to speak out. Please keep doing it. Thanks, Taz, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
What I would ask everybody out there is that you've seen. So what I want everybody to know is that I'm not an activist. I'm not a politician. I don't have a book deal. I don't get paid to do this. I'm not doing this for anybody or for any reason. I'm retired. Like I am a retiree living my retirement life. This is important to me because the world needs to know this. This is about humanity and human dignity and doing what's right. I'm not a politician. I'm a human being. And what more do you need than that? Let's just be human beings. So for everybody out there, for the people you see that are trying to just destroy me online, I don't care. I don't care about my reputation. I don't care about what people want to say about me online. It's not going to change my life. It's not going to change the people that love me. The things that are important in my life, nobody can take away. My family, the love I have for my family, no one's going to take that away from me. So what anybody wants to say about me online and smear me and call me names, and I don't care. In fact, I take it as a badge of honor. Thank you. Keep it coming. It doesn't bother me. So, but what I will say for everybody out there that does support this and the people that are trying to discredit me, push back against that. You've seen some of the comments that have been made on here that are absolutely despicable. Kill them all. Things like, these are the people that want to knock down this message. Despicable, horrible, violent human beings. And if we don't stand up to that, and it's surprising to me that they all love to do it behind their keyboard and love to do it sitting at home behind their computer, but not one of them will put their name on it. Fight back against this. Do not let them win, because then humanity loses.
Thank you. Thank you, Huwaida, and thank you, Anthony. All right, we'll do one more with our brother Ken O'Keefe. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining. If we could just like 2 minutes, hopefully, make it. I know we're running behind, Anthony. Maybe we will be able to bring you back, because we do have Captain Josephine also with us, and she just joined. So nice surprise, Captain Josephine. But we'll see what we could do, Anthony. Go ahead, brother Ken.
First off, love and respect to you, Colonel, and as a U.S. Marine who fought in a war, a machine gunner in combat, all that. I've been anti-war ever since. By the grace of God, I went to Palestine 22 years ago. I've lived in Gaza. I've lived in the West Bank. And like you, I was doing work for free. This was about truth and justice. This was about humanity, as you pointed out. And while I have not been there in this latest round of genocide, I've seen it in the other rounds of genocide. And the connections I've made with the people, I think of a mother, Zainat Samuni, who I met 17 years ago, along with family that literally lost 31 members of their own family after being ordered into a home by the Israelis, and then they hit it with 3 rockets, and you literally had 4 days where they were coming out with white flags trying to get help. Could have saved many, but instead they were forced to lie next to the corpses of their loved ones and watch them bleed out. And that's the kind of trauma that I was already tuned into 17 years ago. I'm still in touch with that family, and they're starving. They're starving, and it is incredible. And I feel for I want to say one thing with regard to being a military man. You know, I remember one thing about the Marines, even though they did me hard for not following the unlawful order, was I took that oath, and I remember that oath, and I keep restating that oath, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, to fight all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true allegiance and faith to the same, to follow the orders of the officers appointed over me and the President of the United States, according to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. I would argue to all the military, with you as a stand-up military man doing the right thing, to refuse any orders going to any Israeli war. And all of them have been Israeli wars, literally. All of them, all of this. Netanyahu, real name Milikowski, telling us how Iran's 5 minutes away from a nuclear weapon, telling us how the Middle East will be a bastion of freedom and democracy when we get rid of Saddam, taking out Muammar Gaddafi, who would have liberated the entire continent of Africa with the African gold dinar. So, you know, I could go on forever, but I'm not going to do that. Your time is precious. You're doing God's work right now, and you know that. And whatever even now, I'm being attacked by people on every angle. Like, I'm a thief, I'm a fraud, I'm a drug addict, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. You know what? None of it matters. And I can tell in you, you're a man of God. So that's my witness up there. And you've done your family proud. You've done your family honorable. For all the people in America that are choosing willful ignorance, because it is willful ignorance. There is no excuse. There is no excuse to choose willful ignorance and be seen as a hero or loved and respected in the community will matter not when you meet your maker and you did nothing, much less paid taxes to pay for the bombs, to bury the children and starve them. So really cannot say enough about you. I hope there's more like you. I know you're going to inspire many. God bless you, my brother.
I do have to go because I have to on the flight, but I'm available to do this again. And any questions that people have, I'll be glad to answer. But you know, thank you to everyone. And again, this is not my story. I'm just the vessel. This is the story of the oppressed and people that should be treated like human beings. Every human being deserves